Good evening YouTube, and welcome back to Just Get a Tesla. It is just after 8 o'clock at night. I have been in Dublin on business and I need to drive back home to Northern Aberdeenshire. It's 150 something miles and it's going to take me about 3 hours. So I know how relaxing Autopilot is for distance driving, and I've done a couple of quite long trips already in this car. You hopefully will have seen some of my long trips. So this video is just how relaxing and how energy saving is Autopilot when it's been a long day. I say I'm tired, I'm not falling asleep tired, but there is definitely I just want a nice relaxed trip home, and my standard basic Autopilot, I believe, will be the perfect thing for this trip, which is mostly on motorways and fast dual carriageways. There's a little bit of single carriageways at the end, and we'll have a see how we cope on those in the dark. Obviously it's very dark. It is early November in Scotland and it's 8 in the evening. So Autopilot in the dark is still something I'm fairly new at, so it's going to be an interesting test of the car and its systems to see just how easy this is. I think the first thing that I would say, and I'm a few miles into this, is that Autopilot certainly makes it a lot easier to eat McDonald's on the move. So I've got McDonald's here, you can't really see it, and because I'm only really having to monitor rather than drive, that does give me hands-free. Yes, I am keeping a hand lightly on the wheel most of the time, or one or the other, or a knee. But the point is that does give me the ability to be able to move things around, which makes it much easier if you are eating your dinner on the move, as I am. Okay, we are going through junction 6 on the M90, and we just had an Autopilot moment. So as the off-slip started to diverge, the car didn't know where it was going and started wandering off to the left, and I had to do quite a big correction to pull it back onto the straightaway. That is the first time that I've had the car do something like that when it's got to effectively a lane split, and the reason why it's a surprise is that you always have dashed white lines showing you where the slip road is going off, so it's not as if it's just blank tarmac and the car can't quite read it. So I'm not sure whether they were more worn than the cameras could recognize, or this is just something you need to watch for when you're on Autopilot at night. I'd be interested in any comments for anyone who's had similar. I'll keep an eye on that. This section of the M90 has this enormous long sweeping downhill bend. There is nothing else like it on the British motorway system, and it's really interesting to drive every time I do it. I mean, we're doing 65 round it without any issues and no complaints on Autopilot, but it's it's certainly different. What I am doing though is I'm looking at energy consumption. So we have got 130 miles to run. It's projecting 165, but when I go on to actuals at the moment, 30 mile range is showing as 148, 165, 115, and 224, now 228 on the 5 mile average. The last two can be ignored. We've just got chunking down this hill in the direction of Perth, so I can ignore those. But if I go onto the drive tab and this new screen that we've got on the latest, I think it's 2022.36 update, this is really useful. This is an excellent screen. It really does show you where we're at. So at the moment it's saying I'm going to get home with what's it saying, 7% battery left. That'll probably drop to 4 or maybe 3. I do have options for a zap and dash stop both in Dundee, and if I really got desperate further up in Aberdeen, I could go through Aberdeen instead of around it. What I think that I'm going to do though is just moderate my speed, especially on the hills, because there are a few hills, and that will get me home. We are approaching the west side of Dundee, where there is a supercharger, but I'm not going to stop. So my forecasted percentage driving home is now 6%, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to take the punt that that's not going to cause me a particular problem. Again, I can just slow down a little bit if I need to. The guessometer has been giving me a reasonably consistent number, so I can look at it on 30 miles and it's saying 139. I can look at it on 15-mile average and it's saying 130. Well, I've got 110 or 109 or something to go, so I'm still going to get there with a good 20 miles or so of buffer, and I think it'll probably be a little bit more than that. Either way, I think it'll be an interesting test to run the thing down and see just how accurate that is. Still on the A90 on one of these wonderful American style broken concrete surfaces, where all you've just got is this rumbling noise and bang 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 over all of the joints where it's been patched over the years. And I'm not sure how much the din is being captured on the microphone, but it is a din. Even on a surface as awful as this, Autopilot's doing a good job. I have to ask a question. For my American friends who are watching this, and hi guys, I know there's quite a lot of you, as I understand it, and it's 25 years since I've been in the States, but you've got quite a lot of concrete roads. Are they as bad as this, and does it get annoying driving on them? Because we have very few concrete surface roads left in the UK. There were more in the 1980s, and most of them have been removed basically because of the din that is created. So if you've got these and you've got to drive on this kind of surface for, you know, a few hundred miles or something, I'm sure you're used to it, but are you used to noise? And wouldn't you just be better off on lovely smooth tarmac, as well pretty much everywhere else in the world does? Let me know in the comments. We are coming up on Stonehaven, so an hour to go. It's still showing I'm going to be on about 5% when I get home, which is absolutely fine. So I'm not going to even think about having to divert through Aberdeen, and frankly I really didn't expect that I would need to. You know, when we talk about range anxiety in EVs, frankly so much of it is psychosomatic. The car, whichever kind of car you've got, but especially a Tesla, you know, if it says you're going to get there, as long as you're not driving like an absolute loon, then you are going to get there. I am happier doing this with Autopilot than I would have been doing the same trick previously in my Mitsubishi Outlander, where, okay, it had cruise control, but it was a fairly rudimentary and manual version of cruise control, and certainly wasn't you know, as good as this. So I'm coming up on this junction now, which not only has a roundabout but has quite a tight circling slip road. So I just knocked Autopilot off completely. I'm not even going to think about trying to get it to go through there, and I'm going to do this manually until we've got through the roundabout and back up the hill. I have no idea how Autopilot would enjoy a bend like this with a frankly realistic 30 miles an hour sweep around it, and then going to the bottom. And then we have the thorny topic of roundabouts. I know that Autopilot doesn't like roundabouts. Frankly, going off the way that some drivers drive, I don't think they understand or like roundabouts either. So I can't really blame the software guys at Tesla for not having quite got that part right yet. One question that I have to ask, having driven a good number of miles now at night time, is some of the choices made about the options you have with regards to lighting. So as an example, in the lights menu, if I go into it, I'm asked about ambient lighting. I can turn it off and I can turn it on. What I can't do is change the brightness, because for me the ambient lighting brightness actually is pretty bright. It's not a distraction on dark roads where it's really dark, but if I was choosing, honestly, I would have the ambient lighting a little darker. Or, as I had with my 2015 Mini Cooper, wouldn't it be good if you could change the colour of the ambient lighting? So in that car I can have it red or orange, blue, green, white, basically whatever you wanted. So I've only got one choice of on or off for ambient lighting, but I have got the option to turn off the steering wheel lights, and the steering wheel lights show you where the little buttons are that toggle volume and your speed settings and voice commands. Why on earth would I want to turn those lights off? So this is one of these Tesla oddities, frankly, where the software guys think of everything. You know, consider Joe mode, where some guy called Joe says, "Hey Elon, can we have quieter bongs? It wakes my baby." And they go, "Sure, here you go." Why can't we have adjustable brightness for ambient lights? We don't need a choice about steering wheel lights being on and off. We do need ambient lighting to be a little bit dimmer. Just make it adjustable. So that's the change that I would make. What do I make of Autopilot and the difference that it's made on that, I don't know what, 120 miles or so? It does make a difference at night, especially. It is reassuring that you can stick the system on and the cameras read the road and will pull you along quite happily. It does make for a more relaxing drive than having to be constantly on your guard and, you know, potentially little bits of corrections inside the lane by yourself. Much better to have the system do that for you. I mean, it will comfortably do it as well on a single carriageway like this, so I can put it on now, but as you've just seen, every single time that you double tap the drive mode stalk to engage Autopilot, it switches auto high beams on and the stupid things come on almost instantly. So I've got it where I'm going double tap push, so double tap with my right hand and push with my left hand on the left stalk to switch it off. But then you're just getting this flash and then off again, which is the most irritating thing. And yes, okay, so I can disable it, and okay, I didn't know that when I made my first couple of videos, and thanks to all of the people in the comments who said here's how you disable it. But you have to disable it every single time, and frankly it's a bit irritating. You know, auto high beams, I get why they're there and it's a useful feature to have, and soon they're going to do the software enable on Matrix and that'll be even better. Great, that's a good thing. But at the moment I keep having to switch the thing off. We'll knock it off and we'll re-engage it and it comes straight on. I'm going to switch it off again because somebody else is coming, but the instant that you double tap down it comes on. So all I can knock it off again, I'm having to knock it off very, very quickly. And that is one thing about Autopilot at night. One thing about Autopilot at night that frankly is a pain in the bum. Coming into Mintlaw now, 10 miles from home. I have mentioned this on a couple of other videos that I've done, especially on night drive ones, but full self-driving. How exactly is it supposed to cope with, you know, a road like that where markings are indistinct, or this is a roundabout with parking bays to the left and a bus stop where buses block it and then more parking bays over there. It's no lane markings anywhere. You know, it's basically just a free-for-all space. and no computer is ever going to drive that as safely as I think a human can, who can watch out for all of the different things that you need to be concerned about when you're driving there. So I've just said that automation is the future, and for so many roads it absolutely is, but I'm still skeptical about FSD, because okay, it might be programmable to work in some American cities, and I'm sure some of you will in the comments say yes, we're in America and we have that and it's marvelous, just as some of you have told me very clearly that I am wrong about my preference on creep mode instead of hold mode. Well, whatever. But I'd love to know how on earth they're ever going to get the software to be able to work in that kind of environment. I'm arriving home now after 199 miles from Edinburgh Airport, and it's been a relaxing trip. So my question at the beginning, as I was crossing the Forth over the Queensferry crossing, was, does Autopilot make trips like this, especially at night, more relaxing? And the definitive answer is yes. And there were also some questions about energy usage, and I did question whether I would need to stop for a quick top up, and decided against it. Well, it was the right decision to do so, because I'm arriving home on 9 miles of spare range and 2.8% battery, having checked it. Now, I will admit that I have hoofed it a little bit on the last 10 miles back from Mintlaw, because I had the battery range. Quite simply, I could do it, so I had a bit of fun with it. But I wasn't particularly worried, and because of Tesla's brilliant supercharging networks, I had options at several points if I decided that I did need to stop and add more charging. Now, you might be wondering what on earth I'm doing. To get down my driveway and to have the cars pointing the right way, the easiest way to do it is to reverse, which is what I'm doing, which is a bit of fun at night, but it's okay. So that is it for today's video. Thanks very much for sticking with me to the end. If you have done, more and more of you are doing so. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I have got so many more videos coming up on this soon, and I will see you very soon on the next one.